All right, guys, this is the Jesus Coffee and Jiu-Jitsu podcast. I'm your host, Hernando Thola, Jiu-Jitsu black belt under Jean-Jacques Machado out of Spokane, Washington. And today, my guest is Matthew Pollino, and he is a black belt. You're out of Ojai, California?
Now I'm in Ventura, and I teach in Ojai and Ventura as well.
Where do you teach?
Well, currently, before the COVID pandemic, I was teaching for Ricardo Frangina Miller at Paragon Jiu-Jitsu at their headquarters. And I also teach for John Jensen at Ojai Valley MMA, which is about 14 and a half miles from here. And Paragon is about 2.5 miles from here. So I'd split my time between both academies.
That's awesome. By the way, man, you just beat me with your setup, man. You got a sick setup, man. Like, you should take over. Here you go. You take the show.
No, this is your show. I have to give a lot of shout outs, for this setup, for how it went down and happened. That's cool. If not, it's okay. But I got a lot of people to thank for this. And
Yeah. No. For sure. We're going to do our shout outs. Absolutely. We'll do it towards the end. But man, it's pretty sick, man. I need some tips. And, I just got some iPhone headphones right now, but this is how we start, right?
Yeah, no, one of my favorite sayings when people post things on Facebook about, they show a video of themselves from like 10 years ago, and they'll kind of be like a little self-deprecating, I guess. And I say, hey, man, I type in there, we all start somewhere, we all got to start somewhere. And what I've learned a lot is that just start, man, just do it, find a way and just do it. And that's kind of what I did. But it took me, I don't know, like 30 years to get that mentality to like, just F it, go for it,
Yeah, but 30 years.
I'm just saying,
You look like you're 30. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Thanks, man.
That's awesome. And so your jiu-jitsu black belt, who gave you your black belt?
Alberto Crane. Yeah, Mr. Alberto Crane in Burbank at Legacy Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah. I taught and trained with him and for him probably about 6 years. And then we moved over here, and I moved here, like I say, June 7th, I don't know, like 2-3 years ago. And on June 9th, I started teaching for Frangina, which has been great. And then it just was this cycle of, the kids, the wife, teaching, training, teaching, more teaching, orientations, privates, and then training kind of gets put on the back burner, and then the opportunity to teach at Ojai Valley came up for a morning kickboxing and fitness class. So I started running that, and then started teaching the kids over there as well and subbing some classes. And again, being at Paragon and then being at Ojai Valley, and it was good. It's still good, It's just different now because I'm doing Zoom videos with the kids.
How is the Zoom working for you? I'm doing Zoom too, but I want to hear your thoughts. How is that for you?
I think it's cool, especially for the kids to keep them kind of engaged. And but it's very difficult to practice if you don't have a training dummy. So John just did a video on how to build your own training dummy. It's kind of cool. And now people are marketing training dummies from $40 to $500 I've seen online. And of course, if you have siblings or a partner, husband, wife, spouse, whatever, you can practice at home with them together on a Zoom. But you can also go online and watch a ton of jiu-jitsu videos on YouTube too. So as far for me, I'm new to it, and I've only done it 3 or 4 classes since this whole thing has started. So it's really recent. Prior to that, I recorded a bunch of videos for John, edited them all thanks to my iPhone on iMovie, and I posted them, and he just kind of uses them when he can. And then my 777 Jiu-Jitsu page on YouTube, I have a bunch of videos that I recorded for private clients, and I'll just kind of copy the link and put it over there. So we started doing these live, the Zoom classes, and it's good, but the problem is there's the lack of consistency, so some parents might throw their kids in front of it and then not man the camera, or they're not engaging with the kid, So, and then I have to focus on, let's say it's you, and then focus on that kid. Hey, Timmy, move your hip to the left. No, 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 stop, move the other hip, versus a class, you can actually go over there and touch them and put them where you need to put them. So what I would like to see is consistency. I've seen some kids Zoom classes with these jiu-jitsu studios. It's amazing. Like you pop on the screen, is like 100 little rectangles on there, and I'm like, wow. But it's only my third or fourth time doing it. So what I think is pertinent is just getting the information out there too. Like it's not really a class at this point. It's like, hey, something as simple as a back break fall. Okay, let's put our palms down. Let's not have our hands up and our arms up here. Don't let the head hit the floor. Okay, guys, now let's try it from a sitting position. Okay, everybody stand up. Let's try it from a squat down low, sit, roll, slap, try to come back up. So I tend to talk a lot, and because I really want them to understand how to do the move, not just rep them out for the sake of repping it out. Like in a class, you kind of have to keep up, and how many people are doing it incorrectly, just for the sake of like 1, 2, 3, versus how many kids have their palms up versus their palms down. I see that from across the room. We have to fix that issue. We have to address that immediately. It's not about perfection, but like, I don't want them doing 100 reps like this. I want them doing it correctly, and I believe in that. So it's been cool with the Zoom. We just get to go over the positions. Hey man, here's the deal. Close guard, open guard, low mount, high mount, right? Side control, couple of variations, knee on belly, back control, double unders, one over, one under, which seatbelt grip or whatever backpack people call it. And especially for kids, it's like for them just to even remember that verbatim. And if I say, hey, Johnny, show me back control double under grips, that kid's going to get behind someone, put his hooks in, not cross his ankles, get those double unders, pull that kid in, put that ear next to his head, hold tight. Okay, now show me seatbelt grip. Arm over the top, bottom hand, protect the top hand, hold the kid in, switch it, do it again on the other side. And that sort of thing. And I think that's what's cool, because we drilled that a lot yesterday, is what I'm saying in the Zoom class. Just the nuts and bolts. So, hey, if we meet up in 3 weeks when this is over, if it's over, the kids that are coming to the Zoom class, they're going to get it. They're going to, oh, I know what he's talking about. I had a little girl yesterday. She was like 8, work with her big brother who doesn't train, and he's 14. So he was just the dummy. Then I had to have my daughter jump on my back, and I had to demonstrate all the things he needs to be doing for her to learn this. And then I had to get on my daughter's back and demonstrate to the other people in the chat room what it is we're doing and how it looks, So
It's crazy, right? Like, I think we're all figuring this out.
yeah. Sink or swim.
Sink or swim. It's hard, like, so I have my school and we moved everyone online.
Yeah, I want to hear all about that, man, because the last I saw you was in Tarzana or Studio City. Where'd I meet you at the car lot, right? And then the next thing I know, bam, he's got his black belt and he moved.
That's awesome. Well, I remember, I think I've seen you at Alberta once. I was there and I kind of knew of you, and I noticed your name. It was 777 Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool, because when I became a believer, that number stuck out to me. Where if I wasn't a believer, honestly, I wouldn't know. But in the Bible, the number 7 pops up a lot. Tell us a little bit. I'll get to mine, but I'm curious about your name. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, I have the logo here on my phone, and this is good because I'm a pretty respectful guy with the lineage and the heritage, and I'm a guest in your house, and I'm teaching for you, and then I'm teaching for this guy. But then how do I create my own identity, and that, if you can see, I can get a better picture with my business card, the 7s, right? You guys can look it up online too. Eventually you can go to 777 Jiu-Jitsu on Facebook and Yelp and Instagram. Yelp is the big one because I have some pretty nice reviews from my clients. So how did I come up with it was, this is the spiel, the three sevens form the triangle, right? Everyone has the circle. I want to be different. I think the triangle just bam, right? The 3 points of control. 777. Well, my name is Matthew Richard Pollino. There's three sevens in that, you know? And I grew up in Las Vegas. And so I took the gambling aspect of it where you see the reels 777. I thought that was kind of cool. And one of my taglines is self-defense is a gamble. Make sure the odds are in your favor. 777 Jiu-Jitsu. And on my business card, it says personal, private, professional. And that is why I'm getting to that. Because I was teaching for Alberto Crane. Then I was teaching for him in Encino. And then I ended up teaching for Brian Gregerson at Club Los Angeles in downtown. I helped him open his school, and I was the head instructor there too. I'm like, that's great. I'm repping all these schools when I'm teaching there, but when I'm teaching these guys that are coming to me for privates, because word's getting around about my teaching and my methods, how do I advertise myself? How do I honor legacy? How do I honor Encino? How do I honor Club? But then without losing myself and without stepping on toes, because I wasn't like in a stealing students or anything, So 777 Jiu-Jitsu was kind of born out of that. It's personal, professional, private. I'm not an academy. I want one day, but brick and mortar is difficult. And teaching privately was good. And teaching for 3 or 4 different academies is good too. It keeps me pretty busy, and I get to be on a stage and meet more people that are potential clients down the road. So that's kind of where that came from.
Awesome. Yeah. Cause I always wonder that. And then going back to like how I think I met you once at Alberto, and then I would follow your stuff, but then I remember, we met up a while back at the car lot, but I think we kind of like knew each other, right?
Yeah.
And you had an FJ Cruiser. Well, for people who don't know, I sold cars for like 18 years. I sold Jags up until moved to Washington, and then we had a mutual friend, and then. But yeah, we clicked and talked a little bit. But what happened was, I got my black belt under Jean-Jacques in August, but I was already moving here, and then it was pretty cool when I got my black belt because like
big deal from him.
It was a big deal, and it was random because I already told him before. I was like, "Hey, I'm moving. I thank you for everything you've done, and we're moving because me and my wife train there." And he's like, "No, man, like we're family, like keep going, And so I was like, "Hey, I want to open an affiliate. I'm gonna open a school." And he's like, "Whatever you need, go talk to Jay. Jay Zavalos. Go talk. We got you. Whatever you need, no problem."
Wow.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh man, that's awesome."
Yeah, go for it for sure, man.
So we, as I was moving out here. It was just one day, I was like, if I ever get my black belt, I know it'll be a day when my wife's on the mat, because we're always together. One day I went to go train like normal, go train evening, and go train. And then Jean-Jacques like gets everyone together because it's always random. He doesn't really do like ceremonies. He just gets everybody together. And I'm like, oh, cool. He's going to promote somebody. Cool. Because like I've been a brown belt for like 7 years, so it just, you forget like what a promotion is.
I understand completely, man.
So he goes and talks. He's like, and I forget, but he had a black belt. Like he had it on the floor. It was hidden. And he brought it up. He's like, "Look, I'm gonna give this guy a black belt, not because he's moving. It's because he's already due, and I don't want to make him wait until December. Not going to make him fly all the way from Washington. So here you go." It was the craziest moment of my life. Like,
quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, like I cried. Like I have 2 kids. I have 2 kids, and I've seen them born, and I cried.
Yeah.
But this one was a different one because when my kids were born, it was more of a miracle. This one was more like all the stuff that I've been through in this jiu-jitsu journey has has gotten to me where I'm at now. It was someone described it as like a flashback, and it was like all the crap, all the good, all the bad, all the crying, all this, all it was like there you go.
Yeah, people that don't do it don't understand it. It's quite an accomplishment, really. You know,
You could relate to that. How was it when you got your black belt?
absolutely. Well, this is a lot. So I got involved in jiu-jitsu like the very first day after UFC one, like in '93. Like, I mean, honestly, man, I was a big Bruce Lee fan. I tell everybody this story that asks. I try to summarize for you, but I was a big Bruce Lee fan, and you know, kind of like what he said: absorb what's useful, discard what's useless, add what's specifically your own, and be done with it. You know. And then when jiu-jitsu came along in '93 and the UFC, you know, the Ultimate Fighting Championship or Ultimate Fighting Challenge, right? And you know, Hoist did what he did, and it was great. And I always make this joke, like the martial arts community was turned upside down. You know, half of them ran from it, half of them tried to defeat it. You know, the smart ones embraced it, and I thank the Bruce Lee mentality for embracing it. I'm like, oh wow, I need to learn that. That's really cool. You know, and I always say this too. Of course, if he would have ate one and been knocked out, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. But the fact is, no matter what the backstory and what people say about it, he did what he did in that cage and brought the opened the United States for sure eyes to jiu-jitsu and the effectiveness of it, especially in one-on-one unarmed combat. No doubt about it. And I was on it. I learned it everywhere from anyone and that I could, you know. But back then, you were lucky to get a crappy VHS from Brazil or somewhere, and then all the magazines started selling jiu-jitsu videos, right? Anyway, so long story short, there was one jiu-jitsu guy in town that came in, and it wasn't a good fit. And someone that trained with him broke apart and was going around to these karate studios after hours and just kind of teaching jiu-jitsu. And man, really, it was nothing more than probably like 1993 version of Gracie Combatives, you know? So it was like $10 a pop. Just come with a bunch of dudes underground, no gi, just learn jiu-jitsu, you know? And I watch those guys in the UFC. I'm doing it. We're learning it, you know? And that was that way for a long time. So I got a lot of mat time, but no legitimate, like full on black belt instruction. And 2001, I moved to LA. I met a couple of guys. I worked out with them, and they referred me over to this guy in North Hollywood. And it was cool. And I spent like over 11 years with him. So I learned a lot, trained a lot, 2 to 6 days a week, twice a day sometimes, for no other reason than I just wanted to be good at jiu-jitsu. I didn't care about competition. I didn't care about fighting. I just wanted to train and really master this art. And, you know, it's 10 years to get a black belt and blah, blah, blah. And then it was like a bad relationship, honestly. And I probably should have left in like year number 6, but I stuck it out, dealt with it, dealt with all the stuff, good and bad. Had a pretty significant injury around purple belt. And then I actually got promoted, but I didn't accept it. It was already after I had left. And I went over to Alberto and I kept my mouth shut and I trained with him. And within 6 months, I was teaching for Alberto. I think it was about 6 months. And then not long after that, he promoted me to black belt. So that was in October of 2012, I think, maybe 13. But, you know, the way I look at it is like, man, I should have got that belt back in like '09 or 10. You know what I mean? And it just depends where you train, who you train with, how many titles you've won, or whatever. For whatever reason, you may or may not get promoted. You know, why are some guys purple belt for 4 years and other guys are, you know, purple belt for 5 years? You know, and then all of a sudden you get your brown belt, and a year and a half later you're a black belt. But then sometimes you're a brown belt for 7 years, even with consistent training. You know, and at that point, really, are you still a brown belt? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, there's no set standard. And so I got promoted from Alberto, and just like you said, it was like vindication, not like in an ego sense, but like there was like 50 people there from 3 different academies. Alberto, his instructor Draculino, who's amazing, Mark Bradford from Club Hollywood, and when he said my name, dude, I was like the first black belt promoted out of that academy, and my buddy Bruno was the second, right behind me, and we had trained together for man like 10 years or more. And it was nuts because everybody like clapping and banging the walls. And I actually have a piece of video of it, but the video is so bad. It looks like 1920s. It's like this small and grainy. You can't hear anything. But I was like shocked, humbled, vindicated because like if you're going to promote people, I feel, and it's not ego, but that's the way to do it, man. You know, whether it's a promotion, a test like Roy Dean does, who I love, or hey guys, we're wrestling hard. Everybody stop class, stop class. Hey, Hernando, come here. Here's your black belt. You know, that is really cool because it's like, it's not like show up on this day, everyone's getting promoted. We all know what it is. I like that surprise element. I think it's cool like that. And so it was great to be recognized by him and to get the response I got. And I told everybody, I'm here for all of you guys. I'm only as good as my training partners, or Stallone once said, I'm the sum total of everyone I work with. And that's how I feel about jiu-jitsu. I'm the sum total of everyone I've ever shared the mat with. And good or bad, or the rivalries or the friendships, it's all behind me. And like I said, I think that's the way to get promoted. So it was a total vindication, not just like, oh yeah, here's your belt. Kind of like what Roy Dean had said, like you put a lot of blood, sweat, tears, time, sacrifice to train, whether it's 7 years, 8 years, 10 years. And just to get promoted, like some places are like, okay, yeah, here's your belt. Good job. Other people make it more of a celebration or a recognition thing. And again, not because of the accolades or the ego, but like, yeah, man, I think people should be recognized and rewarded for their hard work and their talent. And getting that belt for, I think, everybody that trains diligently is a big deal. It's a huge deal. You know, you spend 10 years of your life doing something that's like, what is a doctrine or something in college? So yeah, I don't have a PhD, but I've been on the mat since 93, 2001 with real black belts and real instruction. But up until 93 to 2001, I was busting my backside trying to learn this in addition to everything else I was doing in the martial arts world, So yeah, I think that it should be handled for sure. Like, here it is, man, and now it's just a whole new beginning and a whole new mountain to climb. It's just like a dirty white belt, you know, it's, you know, so yeah, those of you that are close, you'll understand when it happens. Those of you that don't train, unless you have something in your life that you work at diligently, you're not going to understand it, you know? And so people think we're crazy when we talk about it, Belts really don't matter, like Bruce Lee would say, like Helio would say, it only covers this much of your backside. You got to cover the rest. But it really means something in the art of jiu-jitsu for sure. I think it's changed a little bit in recent years, without talking negative, but it's still legit. Like when I was coming up in the 90s, if you were American, like purple belt, you were like a mat god, like, whoa, wow. Nowadays it's different. It's different, you know? And, but I think it still really means something when you get that jiu-jitsu black belt, just simply because of all of the adversity you deal with, and even the good positive adversity and the negative training, you're constantly sparring. That's what makes it so cool. Like with wrestling and boxing, you're constantly sparring, whether you're doing jiu-jitsu with strikes or tournament, you're actually, like I tell my students, you're trying to make another grown individual say uncle, right? And they're trying to make you say uncle. And you just tap when they got you and you keep going. That's why the wrestlers or the guys that spar a lot or the jiu-jitsu guys fare so well in actual combat, because they're actually doing it, and that's why I think that it's different when you get the black belt from jiu-jitsu, plus all the time you put into it. Mat time doesn't lie, period.
Did you say it's the hardest martial arts? Because I've seen some stuff, and I've seen that you actually did some acting and I think some stunt work too. would you say it's probably the hardest martial art period?
Um, I don't think so. I mean, that's a good question. It could be hard on your body like anything else over time, wear and tear. I always say it's not the age, it's the mileage. Open my door here, I'm baking. And I dipped out to get my water. I dropped it.
No,
But
you're good.
but I think there, in terms of like physicality, like Thai boxing is brutal. I watched that Fight World on Netflix, and I forgot the name of it. Excuse me. But they were in Burma or Laos, where they do actually like it's like Thai boxing, but they use headbutts. You know, and nowadays in jiu-jitsu, you pick someone up off the mat that far and drop them, you're disqualified. So I don't think it's the hardest martial art. I think it's one of the most complex practical martial arts, without a doubt. Um, Simply because you can just be really good at, like, let's say you mount someone, you're able to control them, and you can choke them, and that's it. Or it can be totally the other end of the spectrum, where I got your gi tail like Keenan Cornelius, and I wrap it around your leg and then wrap it around your neck and have your arm over here, and you can get really complex with it too. Um, so I think there's a lot of the details and the complexity take longer to learn, right? It's chess, not checkers. Um, but I don't think it's the hardest martial art um, uh, to learn. I mean, because I train people that do kickboxing, and you'll be surprised how someone can't just hold their hands up and throw a decent jab, and how much time and effort goes into learning that. And then the footwork or the head movement. And you spend time or months or years on the mat with these people. Some people get it like that. Some people can just get it. They just see it and they have it. Other guys, you got to explain the move 57 times, and then that's okay, you know? Um, but I think complexity wise, yes. Hard on the body, I think it's the most logical martial art for people to train in, especially these guys that are approaching, and women, you know, 30s, 40s, 50s. Um, I will say this, that if you're training from the time you're young into your 30s and 40s, not that big of a deal. But when you have clients that are coming in that are 40 and haven't done anything since high school or college, or haven't done anything physical, uh, then you have to be a little bit more careful how you proceed, you know? Like, I've seen some academies, first day they're showing hip throws. This guy's 40 years old, never did nothing in his life, can't even do a break fall yet, and you're showing hip throws? No. If you do it, that's fine, but that's not what I do, you know? But yeah.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like I, it's same thing too. Like I'll have some young guys, and then I'll have someone that an older guy. So then that day I might have a different mindset. Okay, we're gonna train, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. But then I see that one person come in, I'm like, okay, we gotta start over.
You have to cater to everybody on the mat. Being an instructor is difficult. You have to, can I teach this 5-year-old and this 50-year-old, you know? And then again, what kind of 50-year-old are they? Are they brand new, haven't done anything? Or are they like a former, I don't know, Vietnam vet or war veteran, and he's in shape and he's 50 and he's taking his supplements and he's running every morning, and he wrestled in college, that's a different individual you're dealing with, and I think as an instructor, it's important to know your students.
That's good stuff, man. See, I'm learning. See,
Yeah.
because I've been teaching since like 2012. I was at brown belt, and then like kind of took a little time off because I was working, then started teaching again. And now you're right. Not all 250-year-olds are the same. You got the one in great shape, and then the other one that hasn't done anything in a while. Or the 220-year-olds. The one that's been drinking, smoking, maybe overweight, where the other one's like
in the clubs and.
So you're totally right, man.
And the other 20-year-old is on his wrestling team, just going into college or something, right? And that's a different beast.
Mm-hmm.
And now with, another big thing is, again, going back to that VHS scenario, or one guy in town that has a school. When I was coming up, it was like, hey, how do you escape this? And of course, the typical answer, don't get put in it, ha ha. and people nowadays, like, I'm paying you money, answer my question, or I'm going to go to the school down the street and write you a bad Yelp review. But coming up, it was like, you just suffered and dealt with it. You figured it out. Or one day your teacher showed you how to escape it. And then that was it. Now you can go home after class and be like triangle escapes on YouTube, and 87,000 videos pop up. Not all of them are great. Some of them are really good, but there you go. So the information is there. It's in my phone, it's on my apps, it's in my computer, it's there. You don't have to wait till the next class. So everybody now has an idea of what jiu-jitsu is. I tell my students all the time, any schmo at the gas station can grab you in a guillotine and yank, jerk, rip, twist, pull, and hurt you. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know the complexities of a guillotine choke or the little different angles and whatnot. But if you don't know how to stabilize, shrug your shoulders, tuck your chin, get a hold of that wrist, and just get your hips close to stabilize, you're going to get yanked all over the place by your neck and head. And even if you don't get choked, you're still going to get hurt. So you got to be able to control that situation and get out of there, right? Especially the guys like bigger than you, stronger than you, more aggressive, whatever. But yeah, you have an idea what to teach. You have your curriculum. And then, I've had many classes where before they split them with the kids, you got a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old in the same class. It should never happen. But sometimes that's just the way it has to be for a little while until the classes get big enough to warrant that split, or you're able to pay staff to cover those classes, right? So all these different things. And I don't even have an academy, but I know because I've been blessed enough to be able to log, like, I don't know, it's upwards of 8,000 hours of teaching classes 7 days a week at 3 different academies, since before I stopped working a real job, and so I learned a lot. It's invaluable. You don't get that. You have to just go through the fire and deal with it. So.
Where do you think this future of jiu-jitsu is going with this quarantine? It's not just, I think it's not just closed. Oh, we go back. Let's go. We're open now. I don't think so.
That's a whole nother thing. I mean, because it's close contact. When it first started, you saw those things on the internet, the memes, right? Where it's like, it was a picture of Fight Club. It's saying jiu-jitsu guys with coronavirus, and then jiu-jitsu guys with ringworm, and they were in hazmat suit. I thought they should have put staff because ringworm's like whatever, but staff would have been, I think, funnier because it's way more dangerous. Man, I think that without getting the political debates and the Facebook people trying to skewer you, I feel that whatever this virus is, if it is contagious, yeah, we all die from the flu and whatnot, but I mean, this is a pretty brutal thing from my understanding, and I wouldn't want anybody that I know to catch it. I always think I kind of compare it to like the 80s, like it's like airborne AIDS, it's like you can have it, not know you have it, you can have it and spread it, you can have it and not get sick, you can get sick and die, you can almost die and still spread it. Can you cough and spread it? Can you touch? I think there's a lot they don't know. I'm not a scientist or biologist or anything, but I'm personally I'm not willing to take that risk, like, hey, school's open tomorrow, let's go, yahoo, I'm not. If other people are, that's fine. If I go grocery shopping, I've been out like a total of 9 times, maybe 8, since this whole thing started. And I went to the grocery store, and the last 2 times I actually wore a mask, and I sanitized my hand. I went to the grocery store, got all my stuff, and I'm out. Came home, wiped it all down, and put it away. I'm not like paranoid. I just precautions. I got 2 kids, and God forbid one of us get it. I mean, no one really knows if you're going to survive it or not. But I think that hopefully it either goes away, kind of like SARS did, I guess, what they said, or they get a vaccine for it. But yeah, so let's say things open back up. Now what? I like the Gracie Baja. I saw their action plan. Jacquelino posted it. Kind of cool. Hey, we start like with 5 people in class. We have X's on the floor, and we keep this spaced out, because it's not about who's got the best plan. It's about, hey, what's feasible, what works. We're all a jiu-jitsu community. Let's help each other out. We're all in the same boat. But how practical is that? So one of my last classes that I taught for Paragon, right before, like a week before they shut it down, I said, you know what we're going to do today, guys? We're just going to do like the front rolls, the break falls, the knee walking, hip escapes. And we did almost everything solo that you could possibly do in a kid's class. Um, just because I figured there's no reason for us to be wrestling and breathing and fighting with each other and getting all up on each other's faces and stuff. And I think the parents appreciated that. And then like a week later, they're like, "Hey, we're gonna close," And I was like, "What, mid-March?" Um, and I hope it goes away. Look, man, we've been through. This planet has been through worse. I think I watched these Netflix documentaries on the Vietnam War, and I watched one on Hiroshima where they dropped the bomb. And you think not being able to get toilet paper is bad? Go watch that documentary, man. They dropped a bomb, killed 80,000 people in the blink of an eye. Then all the aftermath and the fallout and everything else, you were dying right there in the street and people walking over your body. There was no toilet paper. There was no shelter. So I get a little kind of irked when, like someone said, your grandparents were called to war. You're being called to sit on the couch and watch Netflix and get some money to chill out. I know it sucks, but it's not that big of a deal, man. Now, if we're going into month 5, month 6, month 7, okay, now we got to figure something out because the government's not going to pay everybody. But, some of us are blessed enough to work from home or try to make money from home, which is good. But other people aren't. So, yeah, get the academies open and running, whether it's essential or non-essential. Yeah, it's going to help some people mentally and physically. But if this thing is as bad as people say it is, and we don't know we have it, and we go train, or I'm 6 to 10 feet from you and can still spread it to you, and you can bring it home to grandma or somebody, you know, everybody, it's cool until it happens to them, right? You know, um, but yeah, that's all I can really say about it. You know?
Yeah, it's crazy because I don't know about you. So we're in Washington. We're about 4 hours east of Seattle. Seattle is like LA, maybe I think maybe cooler, and I can say that because I'm from LA, right? But it's more maybe like more trendy, more hip, I guess. I don't know.
Aaron's up there, and I think Aaron D's up in Seattle. If I'm not mistaken.
So it's I don't know. It's just I feel like it's like if San Francisco and LA had a baby, that's Seattle, right? So, but we're very there tends to be maybe a little bit more liberal, right? I'll catch flack. It's okay. It's what it is. But on the where we're at, we're very conservative because we're like 20 minutes from Idaho. Um, we're not. It's not as crazy here, and I have a lot of people that are like waiting to open the gym,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we'll be okay. But what I'm planning on doing is, since we've got pretty good at the Zoom and the classes, yeah, it's not what I want, but there's going to be people that are going to. I did a little poll on my Facebook on this community that I have. Not my actual students, but I have another community of Spokane. I put them all in a group, and I said who. I put A, B, C, D, and E options. Okay, the first one was if the gym were open today, who's gonna go? So I had some people. Then I said B would be in how many months? I mean, in 3 months, in a couple months. I had a person for there. Then I had some other ones saying no, I would wait a bit. Then and so it's split down the middle. People are gonna go right away, and then you have the other people that are gonna not gonna go right away, but they're training online. We're teaching them online, so I'm keeping this technology, and I recommend anybody. I like Gracie Baja's plan because I'm gonna use that plan. I think it's pretty good and clever. So we do a regular class. Obviously, the soft opening first phase, or for us, it'll probably be third phase. Probably, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but California will probably be on phase 3 too, because we're linked up to like Washington and California, Oregon. They like linked up, and I heard Nevada and Colorado jumped on too. So whatever California is doing, which is probably going to be the hardest, slowest rollout, I sad to say, we're keeping it. Not ideal, but we've seen, I think you're seeing it too, that like the solo drills are working pretty good. Anybody can do it, and I think it could work in our favor to have more people training eventually, yeah, it's going to take a while, but it's spreading the jiu-jitsu because people are like, oh yeah, I was training with my brother and I like it. Now he wants to train, you know?
And
So
it's good. Well, it's funny because that's one of the things I like online too, a little bit. And yeah, I think, martial art and religion, or martial art and Christianity, kind of go hand in hand. And one of the things that I saw on Facebook was like, it's Satan, I close your churches, haha, with COVID-19. And then Christ is like, no, I open one in every house, or at least every house that wants one, because now everything's online. And I get it. I like the convenience of it, because I'd much rather sit, waking up in the morning and just turn on my iPhone or whatever and listen to a sermon, or go to John MacArthur stuff from Grace Church, and he's got over 20,000 online sermons for the last 40 years. Listen to any one of those. Or, like, for instance, if you go to church 7 years every Sunday to get to the book of Matthew, I can get through it in 7 hours, just video after video after video, and be done. Um, so I think it's cool because we're learning to master technology, a little bit. The technology is great. I just ordered a bunch of stuff to make some better quality online videos than I already have on 777 Jiu-Jitsu on YouTube. And for my private clients in the future, for my students in the future, for the academies I teach at, hey, go to this link, check it out, Um, or we do this live thing. One of the things about teaching live was, like, I didn't, with my situation at home, I don't have a setup in a backyard. I'm in an apartment. I have kids. So either they're on board or they're not. And it's just all the interruptions and things in the background and everything else. I'm trying to run a class. I'd rather film a video at night, no one's around, edit it, and put it up and say, hey, follow along and contact me, so we could just talk like this about jiu-jitsu or about techniques versus running a class. Um, but I think, again, it's a great tool and it keeps people engaged. And that's one of the things we're talking about. Like, if you have a school, would you rather your students look at your videos and talk to you on Zoom? Or do you want them, not that it matters, but that camaraderie you build as a coach or a professor with your clients? I like to give my clients references, like, hey, go check out this guy, or go, I like this person. You can do what you want, but I know I'm teaching you jujitsu for the next year or 10 years. I'd rather you learn what I'm showing you. And then when you're ready, branch out and study other people. But people can just go online too. They don't need to go to a Zoom class. I don't want to sound negative, but they don't need to go to a Zoom class nor watch your app or your videos. Again, I could just type in jujitsu, whatever, and get a million videos from around the world. And if I have that discernment, which I'm not saying that I think if you're like under purple belt, you probably shouldn't do, but uh, if you can discern what's good, what's not so good, or what's going to work for you versus that particular individual, or take what's useful out of that and move on, that's great. You know what I mean? Um, so again, the technology is there. I'd much rather have the students go into Zoom and use it as a tool. But in reality, people can just go type up on YouTube and see whatever video they want with any kind of fighting style. They don't have to go to your school or this guy's school or that Zoom meeting. If they want to learn, they're going to learn. But I like to keep it like this. If I'm the service provider, I want you coming to me, not because of the finances or how good I am, like, oh, look at me, but you know, we're developing something. You're taking a student from white belt and guiding them through the process, not better than the next guy, just different, and so, yeah, you know, everybody's going to have to learn how to what works best for them. You know, with jiu-jitsu, it is difficult because you have a training dummy, or you have solo drills, or you have to sit there and visualize, okay, I'm in half guard. I'm going to slide through this way and move like this. And if I don't have a training partner, someone pushing back on me, it's not quite the same, man. You know?
yeah, it's jiu-jitsu is a tough one. That is a concern. But I know that if I have core guys and they'll stick around, that's all I need. Like, we want new people, we do. But if all, at the end of the day, if it's like, for example, me, you, Alberto, and Leonidas, a few guys, that's all we really need. to
Oh
start
yeah.
again.
Unfortunately, when you run an academy and you got to pay rent, you don't want to, like I say, you don't want to prostitute yourself out for the sake of paying rent. You have to ride that line, because that's the thing about jujitsu. As far as I'm concerned, the quality. One of my old instructors would say something kind of sternly, but we're not going to lower the standard for you to meet it. We're going to keep the standard here, like the Marines. You have to rise to meet that standard, and we don't care if you get right here. You know what I'm saying? You met the standard, but I don't think the standard should be lowered for that person. They should have to rise to it. And if it is a little bit lower and they get it, they can always grow inside of that rank, of course. But I think that's what made jiu-jitsu really cool, was that, hey man, this is what it is to get your black belt or whatever, like every other art. But because it's a fighting art, like an art for self-defense and fighting, when it was introduced here, and people might say it's an old school mentality, but that, I think, is what again distinguishes it from everything else. And yes, you only really need like 2 or 3 training partners to really work and train hard. But when you're running a school, you got to keep the lights on and pay the rent. So
Yeah.
you need the clientele. But I'm a big believer in retention and business. I don't like that whole get them in, get them out mentality. You're going to come and you're going to go. That's fine. But I would much rather have 20 solid guys or girls or kids that are going to stick with you for 2, 3, 4 years, versus a new face on the mat that doesn't stay every week, every month. Because you're teaching, you're constantly trapped in this perpetual cycle of teaching the basics, or just getting them ready to learn the next steps of this art. You know, you're stuck in this circle of basics, which is cool, because I think it all resorts back to basics anyway, ultimately, because you grow up, you get older, you get better at those moves. It's not about acquiring more and more. Like Bruce Lee would say, it's like chiseling away the unessentials and get really good at that cross choke from the guard, or really good at that grip so no one can break out of there. It's like, how do you do that? Well, 20 freaking years of doing this, man, grabbing onto people. That's how you do it. Um, yeah. So how did I get down that path? What were we talking about?
No, this is what this is for. There's no rules. I've been thinking about it. I'm like, okay, so this thing's growing. Well, let's just bring it back like the UFC days, where it's no rules, no holds bar, right? Raw and uncut, and just anything goes.
People think I'm nuts, because I have I have my own theories about it. First of all, I respect and appreciate all those guys in there. They're all amazing. But I often wonder, aside from the athleticism nowadays compared to then, because I remember I told people that there was a video. I think it was Guy Metzger and another fighter. Uh, they had ponytails and chiseled like George St. Pierre physiques, and they're doing their thing. And the ring announcers way back in the 90s were actually kind of making fun of them. Like, oh, these guys look like models, and look, they don't look like fighters, and blah, blah, blah. Because you had like the Tank Abbotts and the other big guys coming in there, or monsters, and fighting, that people that look like fighters, right? And they were literally like, not making fun in a bad way, but just like they were commenting on, they don't look like fighters. They have they look like Ken dolls. And now, fast forward to what, 20 something years later, everybody and their mom is looking like GSP, spandex, chiseled abs, chest, looking good. Wow. That's what a fighter should look like anyway. Uh, but yes, I often wonder that you take away the time limits, you take, okay, even the weight classes, people will argue with the weight classes, but take away their hands being wrapped like plaster, and you won't see punches being thrown like this anymore. You'll see more of the old school, like the Boss Rutan strikes, or the Machida, where it's like accurate, bang, and it has to be accurate, because if I just close my eyes and wing one because my hands are wrapped like plaster and I got gloves on, and I ding you here, I might break my hand, but chances are I'm not. But back in the day, you didn't see punches being thrown like that, and you've seen a lot of these fights where, okay, we're mounted, or you're on the bottom and the guy just holds on real tight, because why? In 10 seconds, they're going to stand us up anyway. And then I'm a better striker, so I throw a punch and now I knock you out. But had that guy never stood us up because you didn't know how to get out of mount, we'd still be laying there till tomorrow. So, again, from what it was to what it is, there's pros and cons. I understand it's excitement, it's got to make money. But yeah, I would definitely love to see at least like a no 25-minute time limit. And if you don't quit or get tapped out, the fight's a draw. Remember back in the day, some of those fights were like the guy's literally getting mangled, like he's getting killed, broken nose, bleeding, and it's disgusting. And I don't want people to go through that. But then all of a sudden, that same individual pulls out an arm lock and taps the guy out. Now, the guy who won the fight, that guy looks like he's beat up, but the other guy tapped. That was what was cool about it. Like, man, did you see that? Like, the guy got punched 10 times in the face, and then he was able to get his back and choked him unconscious. I'm not saying that's the way to win fights either, but there's something to be said about that. What's going to happen in minute 4:59 when you got a back choke, the bell rings, we go to our corners, come back out on our feet. Well, that sucks. What if the bell didn't ring, So either way, it's fine with me, man. I just think that, yeah, I would like to see some kind of mixture of it every now and then. Throw in an old school tournament. Remember those fights? 2-3 fights in one night. I'm not saying that because I enjoy these guys getting battered. I'm just saying, like, that'd be kind of cool because you don't see that anymore. The luck of the draw. You see, like, I don't know, pick any guy. You see McGregor fight Diaz, and then the winner of that the same night go on to fight the next guy who might be George St. Pierre, and then maybe they won't fight for 3 more weeks, and then they go again, like Pride used to do. That'd be pretty neat, man.
Well, now with this quarantine, they're probably going to have to get creative. I mean, I know that UFC tries to put fights still and they don't work out, and just so everything's going to change. I'm curious to see what happens, but yeah. I like obviously we talk about Christ too and Jesus, and but when you were talking about when they were, so I barely saw the UFC probably a month ago. UFC 1 ever. I heard about it, and I'm a Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and I never actually seen it because I know it's like UFC property. You have to pay and watch it.
Yeah.
So I saw it. It was on YouTube. Dude, it was pretty sick, man.
It's pretty neat, man. It's pretty neat. If you go back and you can watch, I mean, depending how, now you have all the time in the world, right? But like, if you go back and watch, like, from UFC 1 all the way to present day, watch all the fights, man. Watch all the old prides. And, I don't know about the drugs and the protocols and all the little supposedly set up matches, or, this guy's handpicked the fight or whatever. But like, you go back and watch from what it was to what it has become. And again, it's cool, whatever people enjoy, but I'm more of the old school stuff, and nowadays everyone's way more well-rounded, way more in better shape, way more knowledgeable. You get to watch 20 fights of your opponent before you step in the ring against them. But back then it was like draw from a hat. Here, man, you're fighting him. Go. You didn't know nothing. I was like, wow. But they all definitely paved the way for what it is today, and everything evolves, everything changes, But the jiu-jitsu thing, man, I guess all you guys out there, if you have studios, all the best to you. Just gotta, try to follow the guidelines. I don't know how it'll work. You got 6 people on your mat, 6 feet apart, and you're doing solo drills, and you're filming it while it's happening, and people are at home doing it. But now there's another problem. How many people at home have weights, have the space to do it? I know one of my students is a girl. She was complaining because she's doing the kickboxing, and she's got a bag, but her neighbors are screaming their heads off because she's banging this bag, at a certain time, even in the afternoon, but because they're home all day downstairs, instead of being at work where it wouldn't matter, she's dealing with that. And she's bummed out about it, so you can order these makeshift dummies. You can make them at home yourself, and you can follow the videos. But I'm showing these moves to these students, and I have to watch out that I don't hit my head on the TV. I have to move the couch. So little problems. But they're still, those are legit issues that you don't have to deal with in an academy. You know,
All
and the
right.
people at home, they're most of the clientele, I think, are not jujitsu fanatics. They don't have mats in their living room like some of us do. I don't. I'm not allowed to. But I've seen some where the living room is a mat, and I'm like, that's awesome, right? But not everybody has that. So, okay, guys, break falls or front rolls, and they have to look out for the coffee table. So this is not sustainable unless they make some drastic changes. And of course, ideally would be the way to do it how we did it. Get down on the mat, get the hands-on training, start making those other cats say uncle yourself, and slap hands and go again. But that's that's how I feel about it. Um, but
Yeah. No, there's no right or wrong. Guess we're all just kind of figuring it out. But with that too, though, like we can see the good out of it. I think. Tell us like a little bit about your faith. Like for me, my faith is what's kind of helping me get through this. Because when I
yeah,
read the Book of Revelations, I'm just like, well, I told my wife this stuff was supposed to happen. Why is it? It's a surprise. Whether it's the end of the world or not, these things are
yeah,
supposed to happen.
that's great. One of the pastors I listened to at Calvary, you know, he one of his things is the last sermon I listened to was like, do you really want to go back? Do you really want to go back to normal or the way things were? And I think that this is a really good time to me personally. I think this should happen for everyone every year, not the disease, but like, hey, everyone's off 2 weeks. All these stores are shutting down. You can go out, you can exercise, but take 14 days, dude, to yourself, because we get caught up so much. Like when I'm teaching 7 days a week, it's not like 8-hour days, but I'm teaching every day. You know what I mean? It could be 2, it could be 4 hours, it could be more with privates, but you get so caught up in it that you don't even know what day it is anymore. And if you're running a school, it's the mat, the fees, the people. You always have to be the guy for everybody, right? Unless you're bigger and you have staff. Staff meaning people, not the infection. And um, I think it's good. Just take the time to reflect. And of course, if the government's going to give you $1,200 or $3,400 to stay home, start that podcast. Get in that voiceover industry. Start writing a movie script, whatever. Start making handbags and sell online. Um, whatever it is. You know what I mean? So I think it's good for people to start. Like I saw that other meme. It's like a guy behind a computer and the camera's back here, so you see his back. And it's like the creatives are going to create. So I don't have to go work an 8-hour job and then get in my booth. You know what I mean? I don't have to go teach for 4 hours and then get in my booth. I can wake up, get my coffee, and go in my booth and be in here for 4 hours. And or I just read one book on like marriage, and now I'm reading another one on parenting, and I'm hell bent on getting through like 2 more books before we're released back into the wild. And like you said, I don't know if I'm going to go back to teaching right away at Paragon. I don't know what's going to happen because it's just the way it is. We don't know if the class is going to go full swing. Can they afford to have you back? And that's with any studio, right? Um, that those are a lot of big questions that people don't, they're going to come in time, the answers, right? So I think that take this time, definitely, man. If you guys are into scripture and like studying the Bible, if you're into whatever, video editing, how long that takes to learn, how much time that is, and go do your research and buy the stuff online and download it and start. That's what I do with the voiceover and the voice acting stuff. I just bit the bullet and went for it, and it's an investment. Either way, it's an investment. You're just investing yourself, whether it's your studio or your podcast or the person watching. Hey, go hire someone and get a guitar, man, and go learn guitar. There's people out there offering it, you know. I think we have to look at this like that. It's like a pause button, you know, like someone said, the earth said, everybody go to your rooms, right? There's a lot of positives that come out of this, a lot of negatives, but end of the world stuff, revelation. Yeah, I mean, I'm not, what my wife says is like, I'm not worried, you know, because I know already a lot more stuff is going to happen and supposed to happen. Way worse. This is nothing. Like, I'm not trying to like play it off. If someone passed away, I'm sorry, but like, if you believe or if it's all true and you study or you know about it, this is really nothing. This is not even the tip of the iceberg of things that are going to go down and what's going to happen. So you kind of have that glimpse into the future and that faith that, you know, that it's there's a lot more going to happen. John MacArthur once said, like, we live on a disposable planet and all the people trying to save it. If you think people are messing it up, wait till you see what God's going to do to it. I believe that. That's a big one. It's not like being facetious, but it's like, if you know, you think we mess it up, wait till you see what he does to it, you know? I think this is really cool. I mean, like I said, I jumped into my first like big Zoom meeting with a buddy of mine that I knew from like 20 years ago. And these other guys in the room, like, hey, how is everybody doing with the COVID pandemic? And everybody's holding up, but how do you guys all know each other? And he's like, oh, I know this guy for 6 years or 5 years. I'm like, man, me and that other guy, thanks to technology, we go back from like the early 90s, you know? And we just hopped online with the punch of a button. Hey, what's up, man? You know, I haven't seen you forever. He invited me to come check out the Zoom meeting. So this is really cool too. I mean, like, who knows how many guys are going to, like yourself, are going to start this and become the next Joe Rogan or something. You know what I mean? I saw Alberto Crane's doing podcasts and I never thought about doing it, but it's cool. Just people talking about whatever, you know. You got comedians riding in cars, getting coffee. Why can't you have jiu-jitsu guys with coffee talking about Jesus or God? You know, why not? There's a market for it, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy because like I like I'm not like the most scholar or this or that. I mean, I read my Bible and I pray, but you know, we're called to make disciples of all nations, and I felt like God put it in my heart. But I'm like, I don't know, like I like doing this. It like helps me, you know, and I love like John MacArthur. I love all these guys, and right now is the time. Like if you have a message, right, or if you have a calling in your life, believe it or not, there's always something in your heart. You have that passion. Now's the time. Now's
Yeah,
the time.
absolutely, man. I mean, look, I am as vile and wretched as anybody else. I have my flaws and my secrets and everything, man. I'm human, dude. You know, there are some things that when I listen, I used to listen and study a lot more than I do now. And then my wife is really getting on me about getting back into it and everything. And I'm into it. It's just not like I once was. And it's not because I don't believe or I don't have faith or anything. It's just because, you know, I just don't make time like I should, right? It's like so kind of self, but I often say to myself, like, I know so much about the Bible because of listening to John MacArthur for a long time. And I'm not just saying him, but like all Alistair Begg and Ravi Zachariah and all these guys where, yeah, I'm in a way worse boat than most people because I know a lot based on what I've studied that's going to definitely be held higher accountable than the guy that doesn't know anything, you know? So I really need to get my backside in gear and do what I'm supposed to be doing, you know? But I think that again, this situation is not as bad as things people have faced. Again, watch that Hiroshima documentary, you know, watch those documentaries on Vietnam on Netflix. Crazy, man. And then whatever, the Spanish flu or the influenza 1918 or something like that, or the 1890s or whatever, I don't know the dates, but you get what I'm saying. It was bad back then. There was no technology. There was none of this. You were lucky to write a letter and someone get it in 3 weeks, right? This is, I'm not living in New York either next to the hospital, but like this is nothing when you compare it to other things in history, I think. Could it be and could it get worse? Absolutely. But you know, people should be happy. I get to spend all this time at home with my kids right now, and that is challenging. Don't get me wrong, you know, but I've watched them grow and change, literally, physically grow since mid-March till now. Like I've been with them, except for when I went to go get groceries and we're sleeping. And even then, they're coming into the bedroom, or waking me up. But it's pretty neat, you know. So I think we still have a lot to be grateful for and thankful for. Um, and God willing that this will pass, vaccine or herd immunity or whatever it's going to be. I don't want to catch it. I'll tell you that right now. I don't want to do it. People, oh, wear a mask. Don't wear a mask. Well, someone put on the internet, if someone is going to pee and you don't have pants on, you're going to get wet. Now, if you have pants on and they pee, you're going to get a little wet. But if they have pants on and you have pants on and they pee, you probably won't get wet at all. That's, you can edit this out. I thought it was funny. That's my sense of humor. Oh, he's a Christian. I think that's hilarious. So the whole thing about masks, the positives and the negatives, and this person saying that and the other person saying this, like, if I have it and I don't know I have it, I'm going to assume I have it when I go to the grocery store. I'm going to wear a mask. And on top of that, I don't want your stuff coughing on me. So whether you're wearing a mask or not, I'm still going to wear one. At least I have some kind of protection, I would think. It makes sense to me. Some people don't feel that way. I don't know. I just stay home as much as I can. It hasn't changed much for me. I'm home. If I'm not on the mat and I'm not training, I'm home anyway, right?
I'm the same way. I haven't really got out much. I'll get out when I can. And, there's that little bit of fear. Well, what if this is real? And I'm going to wear a mask when I go out. And it sucks because I miss hugging people. I miss the training, and the kids more than ever. They're not my kids, but come here, hug me. I'm your professor.
And by hugging, ladies and gentlemen, he says joking. He's meaning joking. That's a jitsu, man. That's a hug. No, but yeah, I mean, it's a strange time, and it's definitely like, I like those other memes online where it's like, where's all the zombies at, man? I was expecting The Walking Dead, but no, it's nothing really it's not like I'm joking or making light of it. I know it's bad. I know people that have had it, or acquaintances of acquaintances, that kind of thing. And I do believe in it. If we just social distance, stay inside, let the experts do their thing, figure out a way to get ahead of this and not make it any worse than it is, or it could be. And that's another thing too, I see these churches, and I'm not pointing fingers, but oh, we don't care. We're going to open up and we're going to do that. Well, as a Christian, from my understanding, the government asked you or told you to shut down. You're supposed to abide by that. Now, if they asked you or told you to do something that goes against God or the Bible, then yeah, you have every right to take the Bible side or God's side and stand up and fight that oppression. But that's a biblical commandment. Like, the people that are in charge are God ordained, whether they're Osama bin Laden, from my understanding, or Donald Trump. That's, for whatever reason, they're there at this time. And unless they ask you or tell you to go against the biblical principles or God, you're to do it they're asked in a good, nice way. I know it's hard for people to hear. It's even hard for me to hear, but that's not me. That's what it says in this book that I study, you know? And the same thing, I mean, you punch me in the face, I don't think I'm going to turn around and smile you off the other cheek. I'm probably going to hit you back, but I'm human, but I'm letting the principles of this book tell you to do this, but you do have a right to defend yourself too, according to the same book. So, yeah, I think that, those guys definitely should be closing. You don't have a church gathering when the government says, hey, man, you need to shut it down for these reasons, for the safety of all, and then go from there,
I agree. What's cool for me, and we both agree, yeah, so you have God put whoever's in charge, right? Donald Trump, God put him there. So now we submit to that. But then we have God's law, right? If you want to call it, then you submit to that. As long as they don't, they can't make us stop worshiping. They can't make us stop because we abide by God. But the church doesn't stop. It doesn't stop in that place, right? It
You don't
just,
have to congregate there. They don't
yeah.
have to, and like, oh, I'm going to show my faith and ship with God's got us. Da, 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 da. Man. I mean, God messes people up. I mean, like, you may catch it, you may not, but that doesn't necessarily mean that God's protecting you. I think at that time, because 50 people showed up to a congregation and no one caught it, I chalked it up as you're lucky. You know, you were lucky. I mean, the bottom line to me is that they asked you to stop for a certain amount of reasons, and biblically, your duty is to respect and obey that authority, unless it is, from my understanding. And that John MacArthur wrote a good book about this called "Why the Government Can't Save You," and that's a good one because we're just rebellious by nature. You know what I mean? But that book for me put a lot of things into perspective. And you can get it out of the Bible too, but um, these are specific things that he wrote based on biblical commentary. So that's pretty cool too. Like that subject, just like the subject of divorce, you can find it in the Bible, but then these guys write books all about divorce or marriage based out of that book. You know what I mean? The Bible. Um, but yeah, that is my understanding. I'm not saying like did God put them there or allows them to be there, whatever. The whole point of the book was that any form of government is better than no form of government. You know, whether it's oppressive or not, and supposedly you're supposed to abide by that in the most humble, gracious, polite possible way, which is hard pill to swallow, unless they're asking you to do something that goes against God or those biblical principles. From my understanding, and again, I'm not a scholar, but one of the things I read, that's why it makes sense to me. Um, I'm not a scientist. I'm not in the lab. I'm not on the front lines. I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy theorist where I'm like, oh, look, these hospitals are all empty. Where's the COVID-19? I'm not really also willing to find out either if it's real. I'm not going to go inhale and go in there where they're all sick and take a deep breath. I'm not cool with that. Just like I'm not cool with like, oh, they got a vaccine. Yeah, I'm the first person in line. let a couple thousand go through first. I'm joking. Hope no one gets hurt. But yeah, they have a lot of experimenting to do. And it's not exact. It's science. There's a lot of failures, right? Just like jiu-jitsu, you fail a lot. You get tapped out 100 times before you be able to escape this move, right?
Just like Christianity, we just fall down, we sin, get back up, repent, keep going.
Yeah, and I learned a lot about that too. Like before, we just do what we do, and it's like whatever, right? And you learn about this stuff, just like if you get your eyes open to jiu-jitsu, like, yeah, I'm gonna fight, I'm gonna do this, and then somebody mangles you, and you're like, your eyes are open. You have a choice: either go down that path, or I'll make a joke, go back to the gym and lift weights and do more cardio. It didn't work the first time, but that's what guys do sometimes. They'll come in with jiu-jitsu, right? And then they get handled, and then, oh, I gotta work out and lift weights and go do this. No, you need to learn some jiu-jitsu, So yeah, you're more in tune to it. You're more in tune. You're like, this is wrong. I know it's wrong. Whether it's a moral guide, but where does that moral guide come from? Then you start studying the Bible, and you understand that uh this is a whole nother podcast. There's a lot I got to go back and study to come with the right answers. But yeah, you just more. I think we're just more in tune to it, and we're not perfect. Like I tell my wife all the time, it's like, look, man, Peter walked with him and denounced him, so you can't front me for slipping and falling into sin or doing something morally or whatever I'm not supposed to do. And I'm not saying that as a way to escape that, but like the difference is how I feel about it, how I handle it after. Do I repeat it over and over and over again, or am I truly trying to change? And that sort of thing. And that's what I'm learning.
It's good stuff. It's a constant walk. It's a constant walk. The only ones that we could point the fingers ourselves, right? Because like no one's perfect. I don't if people get this image that Christians are perfect, they're not. And if anybody's been hurt and judged by that, like Pharisee type, that's not what it is.
Yeah, you know those bumper stickers, please God save me from your followers. Have you seen those before? Um, well, I remember, I just, I learned another thing from listening to MacArthur stuff, and you can learn it from any, solid Bible teacher, um, how you're to behave or how you're to present the gospel or talk about it or teach it in loving kindness and understanding, and not from a position of I'm up here because of this. You know what I mean? Uh, and like you said, I think that people have that bad taste about it because, like God's the cosmic killjoy is what they say, right? But really, man, like all of those things are there for our protection. It's there for your protection. Like if there was zilch premarital, there'd be no STDs. Like, I mean, just for instance, you know what I mean? And there's someone that's going to combat that and say, oh no, whatever. And they might, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. They might even, but it makes sense to me, I mean, social distance and you probably won't get sick, versus go to a crowded Florida beach or something, for spring break. You might get sick, right? Um, but yeah, I just think just it's all on the individual out there listening that are going to agree or disagree. My biggest thing is go find someone to teach it to you. Go listen. If you honestly want to know, not just try to combat or fight or argue, you got to swallow your pride and just pick up the book or get on someone's podcast or get on someone's sermon and just, listen to what that individual, a legitimate individual, has to say about it. And then, do you want to know because you're trying to combat it, or do you want to know because you truly want to learn and find out, right? And that's a big thing, you know. Um, Same thing with jiu-jitsu. Back in the day, guys would walk in the room and I want to see if this works, and then they'd see firsthand that jiu-jitsu is legit, right? And then they either join up or they want to get up and try to do it again and again and again, get tapped out 3, 4, 5 times, and they join your school, or you never see them again, right? So
Curiosity in both ways. Jiu-jitsu, I want to learn more. And
yeah.
then Christianity, I want to know more. Seeking you will find.
Yeah.
Seeking you will find.
Yeah. Ask those questions, man. Ask those questions, but legitimately, sit down, pray. It's not like a one-time pray, and then I'm saved and all that stuff. There's a lot, but the big thing is, and I'm not harping on like a John MacArthur, but like here's a man that spent the last 40, 50 years of his life studying and preaching and learning and teaching the Bible. Like, I mean, that's what I talked to my pastor about. What fascinates me is that you'll hear someone say something about the book, but then they go back to things that you and I couldn't possibly know. Like, okay, here's what this word means in this modern day translation, but in the real scripture, the word they use is this word, which means only this. And you need a teacher to teach you that. Just like here's an arm lock, but now let me show you all the infinite, finite little, little details and tricks that I've learned over the last 20 years that make this arm lock an arm lock, and philosophically, Bruce Lee, before I studied the art, a punch was a punch and a kick was a kick. But as I was studying, it was no longer a punch and no longer a kick. And when I mastered it, it was just a punch and just a kick. You see what I'm saying? Like, if you ask Mike Tyson to show you a punch, bam, that's just a punch for Mike Tyson. You ask Joe Schmo on the street to show you a punch, bam, yeah, that's just a punch for Joe Schmo, but it's not going to be like just a punch from Mike Tyson. Why? Because he knows his stuff. So I need someone like, the way I'm hard-headed, I need someone like a John MacArthur to show me the way and what it is,
Yeah, no, I agree. So you're basically saying, just like in jiu-jitsu, you need an instructor. You can't just learn it on your own. You want to learn the Bible, you want to learn more about faith, you need an instructor, you need a preacher, someone that has dedicated their lives and gotten a doctorate, or not even a doctorate, just really put his life to the gospel. That's basically what you're saying, which I agree 100%.
Yeah, I think you need a guide. I mean, and there are do-it-yourselfers. You can pick it up and start reading, but again, like, go through and look at the genealogies. It's just like, oh my goodness, like, you're gonna fall asleep, or you're gonna get like, you can't handle it. But then you have these guys that have done nothing with the last 40 years of their life but study genealogy, and they can show you like 3 different ways, like the lineage of Christ. You know what I mean? Like, he was real. It did happen. Here's why. Here's how we know. And people laugh about, is Genesis history and all that stuff. And like, hey man, say what you want, but there's some pretty good arguments, because you have a choice. I think you either believe in the theory of creation or you believe in the theory of evolution. There's no other. There's, oh, aliens planted us here. There's no other way. Either you're going to believe this or you believe that. And the biggest thing I told people, that for me, from my learning, when I prayed and I asked, and we can get into this in the next podcast, how I got even involved or turned on to it a little bit, was that John MacArthur, one of the first sermons I listened to, or the first sermon, and again, from my personal study, this is the type of teacher I need. He said something really good. He said, if you don't believe the first 5 words in the Bible, then you have no basis for believing anything else written in the book. And that really resonated with me anyway, because it was like, in the beginning, God created. Not in the beginning, amoeba created. Not in the beginning, the Big Bang created, right? He said, God said it, and bang, it happened, right? Some people are going to laugh about that, and they're going to refute you and fight. That's fine. I have my personal opinion, belief, and view on it based on what I've looked at on both sides of it. And I've heard arguments from both sides, and they both can be pretty compelling. And then it ultimately comes down to faith and what you believe in, right? Do you believe this or do you believe that? And I think aside from that being God ordained, you have to open up and be honest and look and read and study and delve into. But the two-edged sword is, you don't get that unless he allows you to have it, unless he gives it to you, right? So, but yeah, in the beginning, God created, and that's it. Where do you start? He said. Do you forego that and then start at the flood? Do you forego that and then start at the birth of Christ? No. If that first statement is wrong or miscalculated or in error, the whole house is going to crumble. The foundation is shot, you know? So again, just like jiu-jitsu, it's like, build on a strong foundation, learn the basics, right? And build from there. That's what I think. Take it in baby steps. It's a lot, man. It's overwhelming.
It's good stuff, man. No, it's good stuff, man.
I didn't know this is cool. It's all ad lib, it's all like, this is happening real time. So, yeah, that's what fascinates me the most. Like, the average person that picks up that book is not going to know that what's on page whatever in the book of Daniel directly correlates to, 1,000 pages later in Revelation. You need someone to teach you that. I mean, you need someone that put the time in, not like a biased, here's why, because this is what it is. No, there's people out there that can actually show you beyond the shadow of a doubt why this is this, or why this is said that way, or someone who understands the Greek and the Hebrew and the Aramaic and can put it all together. That's amazing to me. That's like, that stuff really gets me like, wow, man.
What do you have to say to someone that, so jiu-jitsu, you tell them, hey, find an instructor now, and the instructor basically does the rest, right? Just show up. Now, someone that wants to know some answers, right, and seeking truth, what would you tell that person, someone, where to start?
I think the biggest one that you'll probably hear the most is like, I know it sounds silly, but pray. I mean, in essence, without like tempting God, so to speak, but you're kind of challenging, the creator of the universe. Like, hey, look, I really don't believe. I want to believe. If you want me to believe that I think that everybody at one time or another that goes down that path has this conversation. I think whether it's in the car or in the bedroom or wherever you are, um, pray. I think that like my thing was like, look, if you want me to know you're real and you want to show me, you want me to be saved, you want me to be in the kingdom, you want me to preach your word, whatever, you want me to be saved and not perish, then please, speak to me in my heart, the next action or the next coincidence or whatever it is, show me. I'm not being mean or facetious. Like, I'm not saying I'm going to go lay on the freeway and if I don't get hit by a car, then oh, I believe in you. That's like more of tempting him. But like, yeah, I think pray. I think that if you get in that, be still, be quiet, listen, know that I am God type of thing. What's scary is that from my experiences and other people's experiences, you will get the answer that you're searching for. I think so. Um, and just because you don't get it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Doesn't mean he's not real. Someone said he always answers, might not be the answer you want. Um, but I have so much work to do. I have so much to work on in myself, uh, in that regards in my life. But it's like jujitsu. It's like you got to train, you got to study, you got to stay sharp. Um, I don't want to learn this stuff just to refute the guy that's going to come on here and say, "Oh, that's a bunch of BS," and here's why. And I can't go in through my database and say, "No, on page whatever of Scripture, page 1 in book 5 of Daniel, this says this." And there are guys out there that can do that. Just like there's black belts. You're a black belt. That's great. I'm a black belt, but you put me in a room with Hickson Gracie, Alberto Crane, uh, Hodger, whoever the big top guys are. I'm a white belt, dude. You know what I mean? But you put me in a room full of regular guys, and I make a joke. It's like you're the average black belt. You're a jiu-jitsu god. But you get around those guys that are Marcelo Garcia. I'm a beginner again, man. Wow, wow. So yeah, you can believe, you can have faith, but if you want to know that stuff, you have to study. But you also have to have a good teacher to teach you. I think. You know. Um, I don't know what it's called, but online. There's some guys that they do a whole voiceover and a whole cartoon drawing. I have it in my phone. I gotta find it, and maybe I can just tell you what it is when we're not online here. But they do the whole book of like Ecclesiastes and Ecclesiastes. They talk about dinosaurs and the flood and Noah, but they're drawing it. They're drawing it as it's happening and as they're narrating it, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty impressive, and it gets into some of that stuff we were talking about, like dinosaurs. People like I used to do that. Dinosaurs weren't around. The Bible doesn't talk about dinosaurs. And my friend was like, "Yes, it does. It says the great beasts that roam the earth." I'm like, "Man, I didn't believe. You can't make me believe by saying, oh, the great beasts that roam." That's pretty vague, don't you think? But then these guys have this video where he starts talking about Behemoth and the description of Behemoth in the Old Testament. And it's comparable to that of like a Brontosaurus or a Diplodocus. I don't know, the biggest one, like the elephant giraffe one. And every stat they give it, they're drawing this thing up and it's describing the dinosaur. But guess what? Dinosaur is not a word that was invented or used until they say it in the narration in the early 1900s or something. So back then, Behemoth, Leviathan, those are the words that were used. And unless you have a scholar or someone that knows their stuff, like that armbar, you're not going to know that unless you study and practice that armbar a million times to where you figure it out, right? but it's a lot easier to have a teacher guiding you through the process. So that blew me away too. That was a recent one that I got. That was big. I was like, wow, because I was always like a dinosaur nut. Like you can't refute there's dinosaurs, but for you to, my friend, try to convince me about the Bible and dinosaurs, and your one comeback is the great beasts that roam the earth. For me, that's not good enough. That's vague. But then these guys are like, behemoth. That describes the Brontosaurus or the other one. I'll slaughter its name again because they just found recently that it wasn't a Brontosaurus. It was the next one. That was the next one up that's bigger. And Brontosaurus is a different one, or one of them didn't exist. You know, they made a mistake or something. And I was like, wow, man, wow. And all the discoveries in the bones that they made, it's all in that video. And it's really cool.
The Bible Project, I think that's what it's called.
Is that what it's called? You looking it up right now?
No, I remember. It's pretty cool. It's kind of like a cartoonish, but it's pretty cool, right? With two guys, and they're really smart, and then they just start to talk about it.
Talking and talking and talking and talking, right?
The Bible Project, guys, check it out. It's really fundamental, but it's really
easy. Yeah,
easy.
That's it, dude.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, they have in here. They have the Bible Project in correct order: Old Testament, New Testament, Isaiah, Jonah, Revelation, James. Yeah, I get a kick out of it because for the way I learned, this is great. But yeah, for me as a dinosaur person, and like, well, prove that. You know, how do you prove that? And if you believe in the creation, yeah, they were around when men were around, period, because it was all there until the flood, and then things changed. And how can you explain fish bones on top of mountains when there's no lake anywhere, right? So that stuff fascinates me. And you know, you'll have the science people that don't believe refute it, and there's some pretty good points in there too, I think. But yeah, the Bible Project guys, again, I can't even really scrape the surface of this stuff, biblically speaking, right? But I'm also not just going to say, oh, just believe and that's that. Go study, go check it out. There's a lot of resources. That Bible Project stuff for me, especially the one about the dinosaur and behemoth, was like, whoa, you know? And yeah, John MacArthur did one too in those early sermons about supposedly the ark. Oh, the ark's real, the ark's not real, and the dimensions of the ark. And they studied it and they learned what those dimensions were. And that almost there was no ships built. And again, this is what they say. So I'm not like a historian, but the ark was built a certain way. It's in the Bible. Those are the specs. And nothing was built similar to the ark until like the times of the Titanic. Like they built ships like that. But how did the writers of the Bible get those specs of the ark, and how the way the ark is built for a ship not to sink or capsize, there's certain fundamental dimensions, whether it's a rowboat or the Titanic, you know, or a vessel like of that size, to not sink in the water, to not capsize. But if there was nothing from the time of the ark until that time period, right? How do you explain that? How do you explain that?
Man, that's out of my. At that point, for me, I give it to faith. I'm just like, okay, God, I trust you.
That's the thing. Like, there's some people like myself. Sometimes, yeah, faith isn't good enough. I want to know how. If the ark is real, and then now there's people, there's scientists doing these tests. Okay, take all these qubits, make a model, and try to sink it. And they've done it, and they couldn't sink it. They couldn't flip it. And then you have nothing built like that for thousands of years later, right? That's pretty amazing. That's the stuff that I'm like, wow, man. There's something to be said about that, but no one wants to take the time, man. They don't want to take the time. I don't believe in that because of this, this, and this. But then you get some Bible scholar and they can counter this, this, and this. Just like Jiu-Jitsu, right? You have come with your 100 moves, and this guy knows all 100 moves way better than you. And he can counter every one of them, you know? So Yeah, but the Bio Project, for anyone listening that if even remotely interested, I think that Bio Project is really cool, man. John MacArthur, uh, any of those guys, if you truly want to know about it, just ask, pray, listen, and check it out. And if you want to learn a good martial art, Jiu-Jitsu is good. I think they're all good. You just have to know why you're learning it, what you're doing it for, you know? And then
Thank
check out Hernando school there in Washington.
soon. We'll check out 777, guys. You have any shout outs, man, you want to give? I know you wanted to shout out for the booth that you got this sweet setup.
Yeah, man, thank you so much, dude. I want to say a couple of things. Like we talked about earlier in this, now's the time if you guys just want to do like guitar or jiu-jitsu or study the Bible or whatever it is that you can try to make money at home or follow your passion or a dream that you didn't have because we've been stuck at home now, you might have the resources or at least to get it started, right? So with voiceover, I kind of Forrest Gump my way in. I spent 17 plus years in LA trying to be an actor. I touched the brass ring, but I didn't do it to the extent that I wanted to. And I still like acting. And my buddy, Mike Brang, who is doing really well in the voiceover industry, turned me on to what he was doing. And I'm inside his old booth. So Mike Brang hooked me up. Thank you for that, Mike. Jeffrey Howell is my voice coach. Mary Lynn Wisner is another lady I've worked with. Again, all thanks to Mike Brang. And then I just cut a professionally produced commercial demo reel with Chuck Duran from Demos That Rock. And wow. And I know there's a big voiceover community out there. You can find it on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and everything. But Mike Brang put me on the path and I got to meet all these wonderful people. So I went from like this to this in less than a year. And I made all my money back so far that I've invested in myself, and I bit the bullet. I took a credit card out. I had no idea where I was going to get the cash from, and I went for it. I booked a couple of jobs, and now I'm investing in myself again with an actual commercial demo reel from a top-notch producer, working with top-notch coaches, and it's been paying off. So those are my shout outs. Former instructor Alberto Crane set me on the path to teaching. And again, it kind of snowballed into where it's at now. Ricardo Miller, Frangina, Paragon Jiu-Jitsu Ventura, John Jensen, Ojai Valley MMA, Hernando Thola right there. Put me on a podcast. I hope to do it again. This was fun. You talk about yourself the whole time. It's great. But yeah, you guys want to hit me up, Facebook, Instagram, Yelp, Vimeo, IMDb, Matthew Pollino, 777 Jiu-Jitsu, Matthew Pollino, voice acting, sometime actor. What else you got, man? And let me plug this computer in before it dies. Hold on.
Well, I gotta get going. I have a kids class, but thanks, guys. Jesus Coffee Jiu-Jitsu, and we'll start this again soon.
I would love to. And next time I'm going to actually have some coffee. I'm going to get some right now.
Thanks, man.
All right. Thank you. God bless you. Be safe, guys.
Too.
Okay? And I hope everybody gets through this safe and sound.
Thanks, man. God bless you too, man. Take care. Talk to you soon.
Be safe. Good talking to you.
Thanks, man. You too.
Bye-bye.